The first intense heat wave of the season is setting up with extreme heat impacts possible. The tropics are heating up with some Gulf of Mexico action in play, and we have winter storm alerts and snow expected in June. I'm Isaiah, and let's dive into the weather for the week of June 16th, 2024. We have a pretty pronounced and dynamic weather pattern setting up this week, which will be driving all of our weather. So let's start off with a look at the weather models, and we can see from this map that we get a pretty clear picture of what our weather pattern and jet stream will look like. This past week, we've had this pattern of ridging, or high pressure, over the west US, and troughing, which is low pressure, over the eastern US. So this translates to hotter and drier weather under the ridge, staying out west, especially with the heat wave we saw in California and parts of the desert southwest, and cooler and wetter weather under the trough in the east. But look what changes as I progress forward into the coming week. The weather pattern does a flip-flop where the strong troughing sets up in the west and the ridging takes over the east, which we can see pretty clearly here by midweek. These systems are also going to be pretty strong and powerful for this time of year. Taking a look at this map, the pressure anomaly in the atmosphere, these deep blue shades in the west and the deep red shades in the east, means that the troughing will be strong troughing and the ridging will be strong ridging. So this will amplify their impacts on the weather. And that's exactly what will be happening, because we're going to see both a heat wave and a winter storm to ramp up at the same time. Let's start with the heat, which looks to be pretty widespread and pretty intense for much of the Midwest, Great Lakes, and eventually Northeast this week. So we need to watch out in cities like Chicago, Indianapolis, Detroit, as temperatures will run 10 to 20 degrees above average, as we can see here, and reach into the 90s for the temperatures, maybe even upper 90s, near 100 degrees in some spots for Monday and Tuesday. Factor in high humidity and our feels like temps, or heat indices, will likely break 100 and could reach as high as 103 to 105 for some. This is certainly dangerous heat that we want to take seriously, especially as it's the first big heat wave of the season. By Wednesday and Thursday, the heat may ease off some for the Midwest, but will shift east to New England. Philly, New York, even places like Caribou, Maine look to warm well into the 90s, and feels like temps will definitely be approaching 100. The new National Weather Service heat risk product shows that the extreme heat impacts to health systems and heat-sensitive industries and infrastructure is lasting over similar regions for several days. So take care not to underestimate the dangers that hot weather brings. Heat is a leading weather killer in the US, so these types of heat waves can quickly be dangerous if unprepared. Stay hydrated, stay cool indoors during the hottest parts of the day if possible, and just be prepared for some good old hot summer weather ahead in this part of the country. Out west, by contrast, we're experiencing the opposite, as we have a trough of low pressure, especially in the upper Rockies and states like Montana and Idaho. Cold temps in the 40s to 50s spill down, especially in the high elevations, but even the lower elevations at places further south will see some cooling. I mean, just look at this. Tuesday morning, we could see a pretty widespread freeze across the mountains, especially in the higher elevations. Added precipitation to this, and we're looking at a fairly stout June snowstorm ahead for portions of Montana and Idaho. High elevations could see 1 to 2 feet of snow, decreasing as the elevation drops, of course, but we still have winter storm watches in place now, to be winter storm warnings soon for much of the region, and we have the potential for heavy wet snow at times. This could impact travel, maybe bring down some tree limbs, and catch people off guard, especially after they've been experiencing some warmer weather there. Temperatures will rebound quickly by the late part of the week, but one last breath of winter will still be ahead for Monday and Tuesday. Between weather systems is always where there is a lot of tension and energy that gets set up, and this is where our focus for severe weather this week will be, mainly in the northern US. Minnesota and the Dakotas look to be the hotspot for rounds of storms and possible severe weather between the troughing in the west and the ridging in the east. The Storm Prediction Center is highlighting the risk for severe weather across these areas for several days early in the week, with marginal to slight risks involved as of this recording, but could be upgraded in the future. Complexes of storms will likely bring large hail and gusty wind threats, so we want to stay weather aware from Sunday, Monday, and even into Tuesday in this part of the country. Severe weather could stretch further south into the plains, with states like Kansas, Nebraska, even Iowa getting under the gun by Wednesday, but we'll have to watch this. Also, as we get further into the week, multiple rounds of storms will start to add up on each other, so we could start seeing some potential flood risks as well, and models are indicating some pretty good widespread 1 to 3 inches of rain. So stay weather aware for storms up here, especially every afternoon and early on this week. Finally, let's go down south and see what's stirring there. Florida has gotten walloped with inches and even feet of rain this past week, with some flash flood emergencies taking place, but fortunately, after this weekend, we'll see a drier stretch to hopefully help soils and communities recover. In fact, much of the southeast stays quiet and mostly dry, with the only big headline being some typical southern heat. The deep south into Texas is where things get interesting, especially along the Gulf, and our attention now has to turn to the tropics. So far in the tropics, we've been quiet this year. We have had no named systems, but we've got this particular system in the Gulf that we're watching for development this upcoming week, and has a decent shot of becoming our first tropical depression or even stronger of the season. As of this recording, the National Hurricane Center has about a 50% shot, but we'll see what comes of it over the next few days. Regardless of development though, this system will help to send in a lot of tropical moisture into the south, especially along the coast, and bring some tropical downpours to Alabama, Louisiana, Texas. We can see this plume of moisture here in all these blue shades moving inland and spreading east to west, and this is where the threat for heavy rain is. Monday and Tuesday, most of the rain will focus in Louisiana into the Houston area, but look at some of these yellow and red colors that we see on this model. That's indicating some pretty heavy rain, pretty intense downpours, tropical in nature possible with this, so we'll be watching for some flooding concerns. As we go later, Wednesday and Thursday into the week, Texas will be the main story. As far as any direct tropical impacts from the system, it's still too early to say, but some of the models are picking on parts of southern Texas, possibly getting some gusty winds picking up a bit with this, so we'll have to watch that, and of course we'll expect some rough surf along the coast as well for much of next week. So we'll be on tropical alert for parts of southern Texas and Louisiana and into the Houston area, as well as a threat for flooding with lots of rain over the coming week. So to wrap up, we've got the hotter and dry weather in the Midwest and Northeast, the cold and even snowy weather in parts of the Rockies, severe weather in the north, and wet tropical weather to watch in the south this week. I think the most pressing impact is the big heat wave in the Midwest, so to all there, let's really make sure to take our heat safety precautions seriously, but we do want to stay weather aware in the northern plains for the severe weather potential, especially Minnesota, and of course the tropical system down south looks quite interesting and could bring a lot of heavy rain impacts. Looking past this further down the line, we do still have some more tropical interests that we're monitoring. The National Hurricane Center has actually just put out another area, potential development off near Florida and the southeast US, so this system will potentially move westward and maybe move into parts of Florida, Georgia, potentially as a tropical depression, even tropical storm, but lots of uncertainty still, and it's a little ways out, so we'll keep on watching this. And we could have more activity in the Gulf, which some of our models are picking up on, that we'll have to watch also. So still a lot happening and a lot to stay weather aware, especially as the tropics will slowly start to heat up as we get closer and closer to July and August. So stay safe, be prepared for all the weather throws our way, and have a great week.